Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to present and discuss the next amendment that I've personally offered, which I'm going to be bringing to the Senate floor, and that's amendment number 1330 to prohibit anyone who's been convicted of offenses under the Violence Against Women and Children Act from gaining legal status under the bill. Mr. President, I think if you ask the American people if they support the outline that has been presented as the guiding outline for the Gang of Eight, the vast majority would say absolutely we support those principles. I would say I support those principles as they were enumerated. The trouble is, in my opinion, when you actually read the bill, and let's remember, particularly as we're in the middle of the debacle of executing Obamacare, it's important to read the bill. It's important to know what's in the bill. In my opinion, the trouble is when you actually read the bill, it doesn't stand up to those principles. It doesn't match. And one example of that is the absolute commitment that was made by the Gang of Eight early on in this process that individuals with a serious or significant criminal background would not get legal status and we would be deported. They were very, very specific about that. In their bipartisan framework for comprehensive immigration reform, which the authors of this bill, the so-called Gang of Eight, released in January of this year, they said very specifically, quote, individuals with a serious criminal background or others who pose a threat to our national security will be ineligible for legal status and subject to deportation, close quote. Very, very clear. But then, again, when you actually read the bill, I believe it comes up far short of that. It does not include significant crimes, serious crimes, which it should include as a disqualification. And Mr. President, one of the areas that I think is the clearest example of that is offenses under the Violence Against Women Act. Offenses that have to do with domestic violence, with child abuse. Those are serious, serious, violent offenses that every American citizen, particularly women, would certainly consider very consequential, very significant, very serious, undermining their fundamental security. And so this Vitter Amendment number 1330, which I'll be presenting and getting a vote on later in this debate, is simple. It simply says those criminal offenses, a conviction of any of those criminal offenses under the Violence Against Women Act. We're talking about domestic violence. We're talking about child abuse, are disqualifiers. Nobody can gain legal status if they're convicted of any of those offenses. That's a disqualifier. That's grounds for deportation. Again, Mr. President, it's very important that we read the bill. It's very important that if anything passes here, it actually matches up to the promises made to the American people, to the rhetoric the American people have heard for weeks and months. And this is an important area where we need to get it right. So I hope all of my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, agree that these are serious offenses. Certainly everybody seemed to agree in the important discussion about the Violence Against Women Act. Certainly everybody seemed to agree then that those offenses that are all about domestic violence and child abuse are very serious, very significant, involve or threaten violence, and certainly they should be disqualifiers for a person becoming legalized under this bill, and they should be grounds for immediate deportation. I hope this is beyond debate. I hope this amendment, as it should, gets widespread bipartisan support. So, Mr. President, I very much look forward to continuing this discussion about Amendment 1330. I very much look forward to getting the vote it will get, because it deserves to get it, and I will demand it. And I very much hope for and look forward to a strong bipartisan vote in support of stopping violence against women in support of furthering the protections of the Violence Against Women Act. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.